Alright, back for part 2. Got the Yanagi here, gonna go from the 400 to the 1000. I worked on it a little bit already, so I don't have to spend so much time on it. Got a new stone in. I wanted to review it a few days ago, but had a little work in the middle of the state. We had a tornado come through, so it got postponed a little bit, but I'm gonna get to that today. This is a special half and half stone, half natural, half synthetic. You can see it's got a curve to the top of it, which I believe this was originally intended for sword sharpeners. It's kind of a replacement for some of the naturals they were using. It seems to be around the 8,000 grit level, maybe a little higher. And we're gonna try and finish the Yanagi with this stone today. But for now, we're gonna work on the 1K a little bit. Then we're gonna move on to the 1200 grit Nubatama, then to the 6000 Arishiyama, and then finally to the half and half Nubatama stone. I could have jumped from the 400 to the 1200 Nubatama stone, but it's a lot quicker and the scratch pattern comes out from the 400 a lot easier if I use a 1000 in between until I get the 800 grit Nubatama. It seems kind of like a lot of stones to have, but when you sharpen a knife like this, close grip progression is important, so you don't have to work too much on one stone to get out the grind marks of a previous one. Okay, that's good for that stone. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the 1200 grit stone here. This stone is very similar to Aoto stone. Speaking with Mr. Ken Schwartz with Precise Sharpening, who I got the hand stone from, the half natural, half synthetic stone. He says this stone is much like a Monzen Aoto, which is a natural Aoto stone. I haven't had the opportunity to try one of those, but I'll take his word for it. Stone produces a very fine mud quite quickly with this type of knife. It typically sharpens fast. Hopefully you can check this in the video. But you can see that the lines between the hard metal and soft metal are well defined. And the soft metal in the back has a nice gray finish to it, while the hard metal at the edge is just lightly polished. I'll work just a few minutes longer with this stone, and we're going to go ahead and move to the 6000. You want to make sure you don't flood the stone too much and just rub the slurry, then you lose the polishing qualities of the mud that you've just built on the stone. That's kind of important with this type of sharpening because half of what you're doing is for aesthetics. So I think that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the 1200 or the 6000 grit Urashiyama stone after the 1200 here. Clean this off real quick. Okay. You see the stone's working quickly, removing a lot of metal. It's not loading, which is good. So hopefully it'll retain some of the definition and surface check texture that we've built already. I'm not sure exactly how the stone's going to work. Sometimes it likes to polish more than we would like. But we'll see. Seems to be doing pretty well with this. Hopefully this shows up in all the videos, but as you can see we're still retaining the definition between the hard soft metals and the hazing of the soft metal in the back and the light polishing in the front, or the hard metal in the front. Getting a little bigger on the back, as expected. hard metal a little bit, changing pressures up to the edge, and with my hand slightly rolling pressure into the bevel. Back to the soft metal. Back up to the hard metal. And hopefully I pronounce this right, but it will do what they call guriochi sharpening, which means to push only. So when you're sharpening, you only want to put pushing pressure when you go forward. When you come back, you just let the blade come back. Now I'm going to lighten up the pressure. I'm trying to blend all the scratch patterns together and make it look a little more smooth on the surface. Basically trying to float the blade in the slurry and mud that you have formed up on the stone. Okay, I'm really liking the look of the bevel. It's not something you're really going to be able to see on the video, but these stones are bringing out the grain of the steel, which almost looks like Damascus waves in the metal when you look at it. Unfortunately, I can't even pick it up under macro camera photography. Seems to be something you can just about only see with your eyes or better cameras. But hopefully you can kind of see the visual pattern that's on the blade now. Had a little spot up near the tip that wasn't fully ground. Had a little bit of the old scratch pattern left in it. Okay, I'd have to say we're pretty good with that stone. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the new half natural, half synthetic stone I got. Now, because one side's rounded and I'm not really trained in using rounded stones like that, I'm going to go ahead and move the brace closer together so the stone sits on the top edges like that. Alright, so here we go. First few thoughts is it feels a lot like a natural stone. Very, very fine. It's not loading at all. The swerve formation is similar to what you'd find with a natural stone. So is the inability for the steel to stick on the surface of the stone. Doesn't seem to be removing a ton of metal, but we're getting a lot of black swarf on the surface. Getting a little bit of polishing, a little bit finer definition in the grain of the steel, it seems. Work this a little more, see what we get. Okay, as you can see, the stone is working quite nicely, building a lot of swarf. I'm not getting any loading of the stone. The stone has a very smooth feel, it's very quiet. Let's see here, we're getting a little bit of more polishing to the end bevel at the harder metal, and also a little more polishing on the soft metal in the back. It kind of seems to be washing out the contrast that we had before. Also in the final sharpening here, I'm doing a rocking motion to the blade because after sharpening down on the hard metal, then up on the soft metal, you want to blend the bevels together in a convex form. You can also do micro bevels and stuff like that, but I like to do one single bevel and adjust the convexity accordingly. In this case, it's almost like a micro bevel at the very end. It's you're still sharpening it in the method of being up on the hard metal, but you just ever so slightly roll up on it, and it'll create a little more convex form to it, strengthening the edge, but not affecting cutting geometry like an actual micro bevel would do. Hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and work up a little slurry on it. See what we get. Use the diamond plate just because I don't have a natural Nagara stone right now. I have a synthetic one, but I just don't think that would work too well with this. So there we go. Got a little mud build up. That usually helps with smoothing out the feel of the stone as you grind the blade across it, and any suctioning to the stone usually helps eliminate a lot of that, which we're not having really any problem with that on this stone as of yet. There's a definite increase in smoothness. I'm getting a little bit of sticking at the end of the strokes as I go forward, and on the return right there's a little bit of suction to the stone with the slurry on top. But it seems like it's bringing back the grains of the steel and the definition between the lamination lines. Oh yeah. I don't know how well, again, this is going to show up, but if it does, that's what we're getting so far.
Shane, what are you doing? Why don't you call me from the house phone?
We'll work on it just a little more, see what else we can get out of it. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen the back side up. Remember, at the very end, right here at the tip, because it's different, you're going to have to just slightly raise the handle up a little bit to get into that. And then dip it back down through the small belly that's right here, and then flat through the rest of it. Come back to this side. Okay. Edge is looking pretty good, and it is extremely sharp. It's hard. It's really hard to explain, but if you've ever sharpened a knife on a natural stone, you know the edge for the given grit is a lot different than what you would find on a synthetic stone. So if you know that comparison well, you'll understand when I say that the edge on this knife is much like the edge you'd find from a natural stone and not like you'd find from a synthetic stone. Um, Once again, the stone's about an 8,000 grit. It's just got an extremely sharp edge on it right now. And we're going to go ahead and give it a few strofes over here. Make sure the camera's lined up. That's that for that. Let's see if I can put a little piece of newsprint here, and as you can see, it just effortlessly goes through the newsprint. And that didn't damage it, so that means we got the edge thick enough through the convexing, and it's ready to go. Hope you enjoyed that video.